Washington football. Woo!
Take a spill.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, joined by my two co-hosts, Hall and Goody, joined by special guest of this show, Mr. Ryan Fowler. Thank you for blessing us on this beautiful, snowy Monday, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. Always appreciate having me on. Hope you guys have been well. It's been a little while.
Yes, it has. And the title of today's episode is Fowlers Finds. The combine just passed. Some news has trickled down that we're going to ask you about and the repercussions of that. But first off, being who made the best case for themselves after the combine?
Yeah, I wish we could sit here for hours and talk about all the combine stuff on either side of the ball, guys. But I think the biggest thing is Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon, came into really the combine process as far as a guy that's going to be early second round pick, probably in the first 5 to 10 selections on day 2. But I think he solidified himself as a day 1 selection. I think Colton Hood from Tennessee doesn't get out of round 1. Monroe Freeling, big boy out of Georgia, I don't think it's outside the top 15 picks when it's all said and done. It depends on with the edge rushers. I mean, with the Reuben Bain stuff, with David Bailey, and I know we're going to probably get into that. But I think specifically Thieneman, Hood, Caleb Banks as well from Florida really solidified their stocks in Indy.
My man. Hall, do you have a question for Ryan? That you could unmute yourself.
That was a little struggle, my bad. Yeah, so just recently, obviously, a lot of smoke, pre-smoke, I'll say that, because we still have a whole month or so until the draft. But a lot of smoke has been around adding an offensive weapon like Jeremiah Love to this offense to help Jaden Daniels out, help Blau out in this run game, and all that stuff. But what are your thoughts on Washington potentially adding a back like Jeremiah Love, or are you of the mindset that they need to get younger, faster, and more athletic on the other side of the ball and maybe go with a defensive player, whoever they may be, maybe one of the Ohio State guys or something like that?
Man, no pun intended, right? I mean, I would love to see Jeremiah Love in Washington. I think if you add him with Jaden Daniels in the backfield, I mean, immediately they're probably the most dynamic backfield in football alongside Lamar and Derrick Henry in Baltimore. But I think it's the most dynamic backfield really in football since the early 2000s with Michael Vick and Warwick Dunn down there in Atlanta. The type of speed and versatility that these guys would offer. And the front 5 is ready too. I mean, I think back to Dallas, right? When they drafted Ezekiel Elliott, that front 5 was awesome. When the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley, number 2, that line wasn't ready for a guy like Saquon Barkley. And you have to have that correlating front 5. This front 5 in Washington is ready to have a guy like Jeremiah Love run behind him. And I think it would make it only that much easier on Jaden Daniels, and it would force teams to whether pick your poison, whether you want to stack the box, keep it light, we'll attack you over the top with Jaden's arm. But I think it would be a dynamic addition. I'm absolutely fine with it. If that's their guy at 7, and let's say Caleb Downs is their number 1 ranked player and he's off the board, Jeremiah Love is 2, they want to go BPA with him there, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Hey, Goody, do you have a question for Ryan?
Yeah, so, Washington does not have many picks this year in this draft. Overall, you kind of have to put a lot of, you got to make your picks right if you're going to make them, right? Adam Peters. But without having a second-round pick or a fourth-round pick, are there some players there that you feel like Washington would definitely be missing out on being able to get in those rounds? Or if they would kind of move their hand to get up, kind of reach a little bit once they do get up back on the clock?
Yeah, I think linebacker is interesting, right? That day 2 bucket, the linebackers are really going to fly off the board. Guys like Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech, depending how you classify Kyle Lewis out of Pitt. Is he a hybrid safety? Is he more so just a typical off-ball backer? I really do think that there's going to be a lot of players in this class, though. As you work into day 3, as far as Bryce Betcher from Oregon, I really like. Jake Golday is a guy on day 2 I think could potentially be missing out on as well. But again, I like Becker. I like Owen Heineke, the former lacrosse player at Oklahoma. Some eligibility concerns, there with him. Potentially may even be at next year's combine, depending on what happens behind the scenes there. With this is just a crazy world with the portal and things like that. But both those guys, Betcher and Heineke, in that day 3 bucket, if they're not able to get a guy in the 2nd or 4th round, round 5, round 6, those types of guys are going to be available there on day 3.
My man.
Awesome.
And I did a mock draft last night for our Commanders draft show that I do with Deuce and Smoke and DT. And I had Arvil Reese at 7. I took Dominique Orange in round 3. I then went with Eli Raridan, the tight end from Notre Dame. Then went with Devon Marshall from NC State. And wrapped up with Bryce Boucher. This is PFF's rankings, by the way. Bryce Boucher. And then finished up with Talon Green. But the one thing that, all smart football fans would say is that if you go with like a linebacker like Arvil Reese, Sonny Styles, round 1, if you go with edge rusher in round 1 as well, who is available in late rounds, in 6th or 7th round? I'm looking for a name in particular. If you wanted to double dip or just add a little bit more to the room.
I think there's 2 guys at the same school. That's Wesley Williams and Vincent Anthony Jr. At Duke. Both long, physical players I've really enjoyed watching in this pre-draft process and enjoyed seeing them at the combine as well. And I think one name also that I've really been following the last few years and probably still going to be maybe a guy 6th, 7th round, maybe in UDFA bucket that was at Shrine, Keyshawn James Newby, guy that was a transfer from Idaho to New Mexico, one of the most productive pass rushers that you'll find in the country over the past 3 seasons. Big physical player. Right now, I mean, there's some concerns as far as his length, as far as his ability to play on early downs. That's why, as far as a guy 6th, 7th round, the level of competition as well is a big concern. But in those rounds, for Adam Peters, you got to find guys with some traits that you really like. Take some flyers on some players, even though, as you guys know, this is a huge draft. You got to find some contributors in these later rounds if you want to keep your job potentially moving into next year. So really Wesley Williams, Vincent Anthony from Duke, and then Keyshawn James Newby from New Mexico.
My man, and this is the gun to your head segment. So I'm going to have a couple of these questions for you. John Wick is standing with a gun to your head. You have to make a decision. All right. If you had the choice between, we're going to call this one the Buckeye Showdown. If you had to choose between Caleb Downs, Arvil Reese, or Sonny Styles, who are you picking?
I'd pick Caleb Downs there. I think, he's listed as a safety, but I think he's someone that can really play nickel. He can play overhang. He can play single high. He's going to impact all 3 levels of your defense right away, so I'd go Caleb Downs.
Okay. If you had to choose between Ruben Bain, David Bailey, or Jordan Tyson?
So, Kyle, I know a couple months ago we talked about how I had David Bailey as my edge 1 in this class. And I know that was a few months ago as the process continues. The arm stuff with Ruben Bain doesn't concern me as much. I remember even having some conversations with some guys in Miami, CC Mauino and Markel Bell, as far as he's a nightmare to deal with in isolation and practice. And those guys are long themselves. So that really doesn't concern me. So as of right now, Kyle, I would go Ruben Bain Jr. over Bailey and over Jordan Tyson.
My man. All right. Last one that I have for you. If you had to go with, now that you picked it, Ruben Bain, Jeremiah Love, or Sonny Styles?
Right there, I'd probably go Ruben Bain. It's close between him and Jeremiah Love, and I think it'd be fun to see Sonny run around with Jordan McGee in the middle of this defense and the speed and athleticism that you need. And I know offense isn't the issue. You got to get more defensive players. I completely understand that. But this is a type of ball player in Jeremiah. Top 5 running back, if not higher, very quickly in his NFL career. And if you asked me if I could pick 2 Pro Bowlers early on in their career in this class right away, it's going to be Caleb Downs and it's going to be Jeremiah Love. And he's in that bucket of the Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs type to what he can do for your overall offensive just architecture and what David Blau is going to want from his offense this year.
My man. And of course, that we would love to be able to look at the offseason and say, a lot of it is going to be generated towards the draft or one or the other, but it's obvious that free agency weighs into what you're going to do at draft time. You would love to be able to say that you could stockpile your team to a point where it is best player available. We don't live in a perfect world sometimes. But if you had to put stock into positions that you would rather go with free agency versus the draft, which positions would those be?
Yeah, I think running back definitely in free agency. Now, depending, also wait until the 7th round, maybe grab a scat back like Eli Heidenreich out of Navy, someone I really do like in this class, outstanding hands in space. And we've seen what Austin Eckler has been able to do really in the past few years here. So I would say running back. I think the corner position as well, potentially someone that you target in free agency as well. I think the front 7, they got to get younger players in this draft. I really do. And we've talked about Arvil Reese. We talked about Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, again, all 3 levels of this defense. So I think in free agency, running back, corner, potentially adding a guard as well. We'll see what happens there if they're not set with a Brandon Coleman at left guard, Alec Reddy at center, of course, with the news today. But then again, in the draft is really that front seven. You got to get more. You got to get physical ball players. You got to get athletes that are just hungry football players and versatile positionless types of guys that Durante Jones wants.
I totally agree. You got anything, Hall?
Yeah, just getting back to the edge position. Say David Bailey, Reese, Bain are all gone before you get to 7, and for whatever reason, Washington decides to go in a different direction, like Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, whatever it may be. In the 3rd round, I've heard a lot of people say this is a deep draft for edge rushers. Are there some guys in the 3rd round that maybe Washington can look at and say, hey, he can maybe step in on day 1 and kind of add some juice to the room?
Yeah, I think there's 2 names specifically from different body types. Again, I really want to see what the pillars of Durante's defense is going to be. But I think Dennis Sutton out of Penn State, you know exactly what you're going to get on early downs as far as his ability to stop the run. And I think his pass rush repertoire is going to improve as far as just an ability to win through your chest plate a little bit and then evolve as kind of a bendy type of twitch edge rusher. And then the name just came. Romello Height as well as the other name on my mind, opposite of David Bailey there at Texas Tech this year. I think Romello has more bend overall in his game than what David Bailey has shown. And I think Romello has lived in the shadows a little bit, but he had a really good Senior Bowl. I thought he had a really good combine, even in the on-field drills. Those things are, you take a little bit of account into what they're doing in T-shirt and shorts, but just showcasing the bend, different things like that, he was able to do in Indy. So Romello Height from Texas Tech and Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. 2 different body types. Both of them should be available there late day 2.
Yeah, and speaking of, it's so funny because every time you watch Zion Young, you can't take your eyes off number 8, who transferred to Miami, which I was really hoping he was coming out in this draft because that guy is absolutely electric. Just to take it off a little bit, but I'm really excited what he could possibly do in the future as well. Sorry, Goody, do you have a question?
No further questions. I'm just getting stoked. I know it's about a month away before we get to even get close to the draft, but when that pick comes off the board, it's always going to be interesting to see what it comes down to. So
my man,
all good.
Now with the release of Biadasz, I would say it's kind of surprising, just given that we talked about the offensive line kind of being set up. Like you weren't really expecting for that to happen. You knew that Biadasz took a step back, but we weren't sure if they were going to go to this length, right, Ryan? But the 3 Iowa guys, are they possibly able to play, all of them play center at the next level? And if not them, who are some favorites of yours coming out in the draft?
That's a great center class. It is. You're probably mentioning Logan Jones, Bo Stevens, and Gennings Dunker as well. I mean, those guys, I think I would prioritize Jones first. And then obviously Bo Stevens as well had another really good Senior Bowl week. I think Jones obviously kicks it off. Connor Lew as well from Auburn's a headliner. But again, middle rounds to early portions of day 3. Sam Hecht from Kansas State. He's a little bit of an awkward mover. I mean, just very heavy in his lower half, but you want that in your centers as far as the ability to anchor against different body types, whether it's a 285-pound guy like we're in this class, like a Zane Durant from Penn State, or you're facing a guy like Lee Hunter that's 320, 330, or even bigger in this class. So I think Sam Hecht again from Kansas State, James Brockermeyer from Miami. No reason for him not to get a combine invite after what he did for the Miami Hurricanes this year, but he had a really good week at the Senior Bowl as well. That's probably a 5th or 6th round selection. So lots of players in this center class to know. And I'm excited to see what this ground game looks like, guys, for the Commanders this year. If Alec Reddy's their center, that's a different skill set than what Tyler Biadasz had. Right, Tyler's more so get up to the second level, seal backers, outside zone a little bit. And I know David Blau wants to run outside zone, but Nick Allegretti's more so A to B, take your lunch money, let you know about a little bit, which is great. I think we all love guys that want to do that, but finding the skill sets that you want to align with your offensive structure and defensive side of the ball with Durante is going to be very interesting, both in free agency and then when you get to the draft. It's going to be fun to see how this roster really progresses and improves himself in such a big year for both Adam Peters and Dan Quinn.
Yeah, and then I was talking with Ken Johansson because it was funny. I was watching film of Patrick Payton from LSU, and I think he has one of the best get-offs in this class, but his middle name is Miss Tackle. It's amazing to see how many times he's on the ground, Ryan. But the one guy that I watched him go against was Trey Zune, and Ken Johansson had made a point that don't forget about Trey Zune, that he could also be transitioning to center as well. I think he's considered a late-round guy, but given that that's probably with the viewpoint of tackle, how high do you think you could possibly go transitioning to center? Being 6'6", that's a big dude.
He's a big dude, but I think what's nice with him and really all these A&M linemen, there's a bunch of them. There are 4 at the combine alone, is his ability to sink in his lower half. And when I think about big boys and their ability to sink, I think about Mekhi Becton and what he was
Right.
even for the Eagles working with Jeff Stoutland. But then also I think about Joe Alt at the tackle position. Like if you're such a big human and you stand straight up, all that surface area for those guys to target, it presents more of an opportunity for you to lose a rep. But if your ability at 6'6" as a center to sink in your lower half and to win the leverage battle quickly, and then you utilize your tackle-like length at the center spot, it just makes it easier for everybody up front. It makes it easier on your quarterback. It makes it easier in the ground game as well, sealing off guys, making that the far side front tech or front one tech block to get to his outside shoulder, which is a very tough block to make.
Yep.
That type of length matters at the center position. And if he can sink and use that depth, just continue to improve in that, I think Trey Zune is absolutely guy early portions of day 3 to know in this class.
Okay, and you don't have any issues with him being at center. Do you think that he can start this year?
I think that transition is probably going to have some speed bumps right away. But I think overall down the line, even a guy like Spencer Fano, right, from Utah, that's a guy that's looked upon as a tackle or a guard, and he also took snaps at center at the combine. So there's going to be teams asked to do certain things, but I think there would be some speed bumps there. I wouldn't ask him to start right away, but potentially down the line, potentially so.
Now, Ryan, Hall, I'll let you go next. I just wanted to get this one out because it's like a personal thing for me because, I'm trying to get better every year whenever I'm looking at players. I do take some pride in stock of being able to get better at what I'm viewing. And the one cog in all this, especially defensively, is Durante Jones. And the one key word you could take away from his defensive presser was versatility, right? And when I look at the edge rushing class, especially at 7 overall, that for Ruben Bain, that almost ruins it for me because it's like with Ruben, him being kind of like the heavy-footed cat, where these other guys like Cassius Howell, David Bailey, you see them dropping back into coverage. You see them going over the center and rushing, and you see them being able to drop back as a quarterback spy. With Ruben Bain, you don't see it all that much. Is that any at all a deterrence for you with Ruben Bain, or is it strictly just the best player available?
Yeah, if you live in a 3-4 defense and you want an athletic piece that can drop into the flats, Ruben Bain's not your guy. Right. That's a guy that can play heavy end and an odd front as well and slide up and down and stand up also. But David Bailey, Cassius Howell, Akeem Mesidor are going to be those guys at the top. And I think David Bailey is that premier guy. You turn on the Oregon tape, right, in the CFP game, where he's not able to get after the passer a little bit. Well, he's still creating with to get his hands in passing lanes and running out to the flats and high effort guy in the backside of plays if he's not able to get off blocks in front of him. David Bailey is never going to be an elite run defender. That's just not what he is. But you're not drafting a guy like that to have, 5 sacks a year and play the potential at times Chase Young role where he's just sticking his inside arm out and just sealing the edges. You got to get a guy that's going to be 10, 12 sacks a year. So that's David Bailey. I think absolutely if Durante wants a guy that has juice right away as a pass rusher and roll in the flats and coverage and be versatile, like you said, that the focus could absolutely be on David Bailey.
My man. Sorry, Hall.
Yeah, it's kind of a non-draft question, but you were talking about how Washington, it's going to be interesting to see how they shape the roster out. What do you think they're going to do at wide receiver opposite Terry, knowing that they've already sunk in a little bit of draft capital into the wide receiver room and Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane the last couple of years? And as you know, it's been a struggle to find that guy consistently opposite Terry, basically since we've drafted Terry. So more than likely it's going to be free agency. So what do you think they do as far as adding someone opposite Terry for this offense?
Yeah, I think the focus is Alec Pierce or Romeo Doubs or Jawan Jennings. I know has been rumored already to them, but I think there's guys in this class that you can add. You're not going to get your headliners as you're working back up day 3, but I think there's a couple separators right now. Kevin Coleman Jr. from Missouri is one of my favorite players in this class. I think he's extremely underrated. I think he's a high-level player right away, as is Cyrus Allen from Cincinnati. Someone right away, how to separate. That translates to the NFL level. I think Adam Peters and everyone in that building is much higher on Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey than I am. Maybe you guys are. I don't know. I know Jalen did a great job as a return man. Luke as well was basically an all-pro, both those guys at some point in time last year. But Terry needs a guy opposite of him. And I don't have anybody in the tight ends room right now. And I'm also all the way out and potentially bringing back Zach Ertz. And I can't sit here right now and say I expect anything from Ben Sinnott working into year 3. So overall, I think free agency is going to be the route if Debo does indeed walk. Alec Pierce, Romeo Doubs are obviously the headliners, but there are players in this draft. If they were to wait till day 3, maybe add another pick or so, to get some potential separators in that 5'10", 5'11" bucket to help Terry and more so help Jaden out.
My man. And I asked you before about the back end of the edges, so now I'm going to be upfront with it and just brutally honest. Caden Curry from Ohio State, speaking in mind with the versatility that Durante Jones would possibly like to covet, and him being somebody that's dropped back into coverage, being a big dude, but also being able to get after the passer and very good against the run. Do you expect for him to be a late round guy, and if he would be a good double dipping piece?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do expect him to be a day 3 player. You mentioned as a big physical guy. I think right away you know what you're going to get as far as Caden Curry strapping up for you, and that's going to be someone that probably outplays his draft slot because it is a bad stereotype for guys that look like him that are the gritty, physical, high motor guys. That's what he is. He reminds me of some of the George Karlaftis coming out of Purdue, those high-level players that can do anything for you, not going to cost you a ton of draft capital, not the best athletes in the world, but he's a darn good football player. That carved himself a heck of a role in that Matt Patricia defense at Ohio State. But Kyle, I also want to mention a guy earlier that you talked about with Pat Payton. I mean, this just providing some context on him. That was a guy that was talked about as a top 15 pick coming out of high school to Florida State.
Really?
It didn't work out there. Right now he's big, long, physical. I mean, if you lined up all the edge rushers in this class, he's probably a top 4 or 5 guy that you take just based on looks and length, and that's Pat Payton. So if that light bulb metaphorically clicks and Durante Jones sees him late day 3 potentially, which is even crazy to say because a couple of years ago, again, talking first round, that light bulb clicks with him, you're potentially hitting on a diamond in the rough type of player from LSU.
It's funny because he was one of the guys that selected to overlook in the draft. Like, I don't want to look at just the top guys. We'd like to spread it out, right? And with Pat Payton, like, there was a slow-mo video I did of his get off the line of scrimmage where he's 3 yards deep when everyone is just getting off the ball. It's one of the best first steps I've seen. I kind of learned from James Pierce, because one of my criticisms of James Pierce was he has a great get off, but he doesn't get out to the quarterback. Well, you saw with James Pierce this year, he had over 10 sacks, and maybe there is a correlation to that, like you were speaking, Ryan. But do you guys have any other questions for Ryan before I wrap up? Anyone?
All good.
All good? I wanted to ask you, because you kind of talked about the tight end room. Would you rather go free agency there?
For me, no. I would love somehow, some way, if the Commanders were able to sneak into the second round. One of my favorite tight ends in this class, guys. I mean, 27 of them were invited to the combine. So you're going to have different body types. You're going to have different skill sets at that position. Michael Trigg from Baylor. I just mentioned if that light bulb clicks, spent time at USC, spent time at Ole Miss, found his niche at Baylor. 84 plus on the wing for him. That's more so than some linemen. His ability to go over the top of guys. I think he projects long-term as an F piece to potentially be a top 10 F piece at tight end in the NFL. I think he's as good as Kenyon Sadiq in space. He's as good as Eli Stowers in space. Second round, if the Commanders were expecting to get there, maybe back into the second round. I talked to some teams even the last 2 weeks that have strictly graded him just as a receiver because of his lack of success as an inline blocker. But for the Commanders, they have that guy. John Bates is already in the building. So to potentially be that F piece to really expand this offense somehow in the second round, Michael Trigg from Baylor is a guy I'm absolutely loving this class.
Last one I have for you. We talk. It's funny. Deuce Red Zone in the lab. He called it arm gate in regards to Ruben Bain and the shorter arms along with Cassius Howell, who had shorter arm length, and we kind of discussed it. What is your opinion on arm gate, especially with defensive ends?
Yeah, it matters. It just comes down to the leverage battle right up front. But I think I mentioned it earlier, with Markel Bell and CC Maui at practice. I mean, going up Markel and Ruben to practice in one-on-ones, Markel said, look, Ruben's been a nightmare against him in isolation. And Markel's going to be one of the longest players in the NFL when he enters it. So it's not a huge concern for me. I know there are teams as far as bigger, faster, stronger at the tackle position that it is going to matter. But I think Ruben is so versatile and is just a flat-out high-level football player where for me, if I'm a team at 11, 12, 13, 14, I hope a team in the top 10 gets cute on a guy like Ruben Bain because maybe his arms are 3/8 of an inch or an inch shorter than what they were listed at. If you want to do that and ignore 3 years of tape against tackles that are going to be in the NFL in the next 2 years, against Big Ten competition, against SEC competition, what he did in a long season this year to the national championship for Miami, then that's fine. I know it matters, but it's all about really leverage up front. I think he's going to be absolutely fine at the NFL level.
I think it matters more for offensive tackles than it does for edges. As long as you have good hand usage and like you said, with the leverage, I think you'd be all right at the next level. Last one I have for you. And next one is gun to your head. Last one. For backup quarterback in this class, Luke Altmaier, You have Sawyer Robertson or and Cole Payton or Taylor Green.
I'll say this: Taylor Green and Cole Payton, guys. I'm not sure if they either get out of day two.
Really?
Coming online, yeah. I'll
Oh,
say that.
no.
A lot of teams like Cole Payton from North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Crazier things have happened. Obviously, could slip out of day two, but teams really like Cole Payton, a big, strong, physical kid. But Taylor Green, guys, I don't want to sit here and just say someone's going to draft him and be a guy to where you have to let him fail at the quarterback position and have the Terrell Pryor, Logan Thomas, Tyree Jackson type of transition. But 6'6", 4'3", jumps out of the gym. I mean, that's just you can work with that a little bit if he does make that transition. But to answer your question as far as who I'd rather have as a backup, I think you try to get a guy in the building that has a similar skill set to Jaden Daniels. And of those three specifically, I would say Taylor Green.
My man. I knew it. I knew it. I knew that's why I selected him at the 7th round.
But he does have such a long way to go as a quarterback.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's
long
he reminds me a lot of Anthony Richardson, where like he has those wow plays you walk away from saying it's incredible. I haven't seen anybody make a play like that. But then he throws it like a check down right into the arms of the defender, and you're like, okay, like what are you doing here, pal? So it's going to be developmental, but like we can't just depend on Sam Hartman for the rest of our lives.
One of the worst summers I've ever seen from a quarterback was last year with Sam Hartman. I can't remember as bad a preseason that Sam had. Feel bad for him, honestly, but it's what happened.
No, I totally get what you mean by that, Ryan. Last one I have real quick, just a personal thing. The quarterback that played for Boston College this year, I think he started out, and I think he's transferring to Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. Have you watched him at all?
Oh man, Kyle, you stumped me. I'm unfamiliar with the name.
I think it was Castellano, something like that.
No, that's Florida State.
The gates open.
Florida State.
Yeah. He played for Boston College and transferred.
Oh yeah. He was at Boston College before that, I think.
I'm sorry, everybody. This is putting us to the wayside.
Are you talking about Tommy Castellanos?
No, that's the Florida State kid.
Yeah. But
no, this one he played for Boston College this year because like the guy that came in at the end of the year, or they were moving in and out, they were battling, is coming out in the draft. And the funny thing was, I was watching the tape of the kid that actually transferred, that I was like, holy crap, he's gonna be really good. How was he not regarded higher? But then to find out that it was the other guy I was looking at, that I was like, okay, I'm stupid. But I just
I'm unfamiliar, Kyle. You stumped me.
I'm looking at it, but I'll get your opinion on it because I don't want to hold everybody up. What's eventually gonna go? I'm trying to look it up right now. Maybe it's not Syracuse. I'm mixing it all up, but I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. All right. But Ryan, before you get out of here, it's like to plug your social media handle and your show, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, my podcast, Commanding the Huddle, 2 times a week, all podcast platforms. And if you don't already, you can follow me on X at _Ryan Fowler.
My man. Have a good night, Ryan. I appreciate you, brother. Enjoy it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Ryan Fowler. Always appreciate his time. What's up, boys? How was the weekend?
Weekend was good. Weekend was quick. Didn't do much this weekend. Just laying low.
My man.
Yes, sir. Same with me. Just laying low, chill. Nice little chill weekend.
Yeah, we had some good weather, so.
Dylan Lonergan to Rutgers. Dylan Lonergan. That's what it is. Oh, man, that was biting me. Sorry, I have to let him know that.
That's a name right there, Lonergan.
Dude, I felt like such an idiot. I uploaded a whole thing, was like, this is a guy you should be looking at, and then come to find out that wasn't his name, and the guy that's coming out in the draft was not as good as this cat, which sucks.
Still remains to be seen.
Yeah. But yeah, we celebrated Cash's birthday on Friday. Got home from work, went out for ice cream, had family movie night, had pizza, had a good time. Then they had Taekwondo on Saturday. So it was really good. A good weekend for us. We got to celebrate his birthday and Aunt Chez's birthday. So it was a good time, man. Really good time.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to get your guys' opinion. Hall, what was your reaction to Tyler Biadasz leaving?
Oh, I can't wait for this one.
I was shocked, honestly. Like, shocked from a sense of everyone just assumed that, all right, we got the offensive line locked up. We got our, at minimum, starting 4, and we'll see what happens with the left guard spot. But we got potential guys in the building that can solidify that starting 5. And yeah, like you said, like a lot of people said, surprised that it happened. But if you really go back and kind of watch him over the season, you kind of realize that he played a lot better in 24 than he did in 25. And if you look at the cat, or I didn't really save a lot of money, but I guess the talk is that
I think it was like
a lot of
7
people
mil
look,
or something like that.
yeah, a lot of people look at Allegretti's play and Biadasz's play at center as kind of equal. So why not keep Allegretti, who's the cheaper of the two, and Biadasz is on the last year of his deal, and obviously a lot of times in the NFL when no guaranteed money left on contracts, those guys are cut candidates anyway. So surprised, but once you see that they had a plan behind it and they feel good about Allegretti and bringing a guy in competition wise and competing with him at that spot, then obviously you got to see how it works out. But on paper and just from like a cap and I guess like a GM standpoint, you could say it makes sense.
Yeah, and obviously the Colonel asked us this question, Goody, which is similar. The surprise release of starting center Tyler Biadasz suggests a drastically different offensive scheme is imminent. Sorry, I butchered that. What limitations did Biadasz have eliminating him from OC David Blau's plans?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly what they know, right? Blau's been on the team for 2 years. He's worked under a lot of different offensive coaches. He has his way of doing it, and he has a way that he was taught to do it. But in terms of knowing exactly how he wants to present this offense this season, I'm not sure of that. But in terms of the center being removed or released and having to be replaced, all you can really think is this is for a reason. I feel like that just getting the news of this, while it may surprise you, right? Because you don't think that that's a necessity, but while it may have caught you off surprise, but people are making it seem like the front office spilled the milk on the keyboard by accident and just like released him and like, oh no, like they had a plan. Like there's a plan for this. There's a reason. They're not just doing it. So I didn't understand the uproar and like people just trying to figure out like what's going on. Like they released him because they want to do something else, and we're gonna get there because we're not even at the start of free agency yet, which I can't wait. I'm fired up, and we haven't hit the draft yet. So, just take it easy. Take it easy. They're just doing their things. It's business as usual. But to be surprised, I understand. But to panic and that's hard. But to answer the question, the offense direction, we're gonna find out as soon as they land that center.
Yeah, one of the funniest reactions that I saw, and it was like all by accident, of course. I tagged in our group chat. I posted it. I just thought it was so funny from the Hogsty, where his immediate reaction was Biadasz like a KK guy or something? I don't get it. And I wrote it to the group chat. I was like, man, he was 1K away from that actually still making sense. And also, I don't think it. I'm not sure it is about limitations, ultimately, more so than it is about youth, especially for Biadasz, where, like the NFL is hyper aware of guys' limitations and projections, right? And like they wear those weird looking sports bra things that tells you how fast they're running. It tells you they're obviously all their vitals, health wise and everything. But they're very aware of where guys' bodies are, right? Now, I would say with Biadasz, it makes more sense if you look at it saying the arrow's been trending down. And when they brought in somebody like Allegretti, who possibly came in at center, they were able to see that the lever was either similar to Biadasz or it was higher than Biadasz's. And so them saying that's why they extended Allegretti recently to say, this is going to be either our starting center, competing center, or backup center, which is not the worst thing in the world based on the projections of what they saw. And I also do think it might have something to do with flexibility in terms of being able to move in the stretch game. And because I think Biadasz is much more so of the power type. I think you could compare him a lot to Chris Paul at this stage in his career. But Biadasz deserves a lot of credit, man. He that 2024 season, he battled through 3 different injuries, just played throughout the entire season, helped his team win a lot of football games. He deserves a lot of credit, but I think that when the rubber meets the road, you got to make a decision, and they kind of saw that the arrow was trending down, and they could get similar production out of Allegretti. In my
And look, at the end of the day, I heard JP say that like obviously he's talking to guys walking off the field after at the end of the games. He's seeing guys walk out the locker room after the end of games and whatnot. And he said like since like week 2, 3, 4, something like that, the dude was literally just like last year battling some type of injury and was like limping off the field. And I know she goes crazy, limping off the field and like just like limping out the locker room. So I mean, it's just also maybe a thing of when he's healthy, he's a good center. He's a really good center. But when he's banged up, his play drops off like pretty noticeably. So maybe just looking at it like Allegretti could stay a little bit more healthier and provides what we want for a cheaper price.
This group has been able to develop and build an offensive line over the past few years in terms of plugging people in and getting people to develop. So I'm not too worried about that. You know, we got young Connolly, we have Chris Paul kind of peak, even though he may kind of be testing the waters elsewhere. But I'm confident in what this front office has done with this line.
So I gotta tell you a funny story. My coworker James, not to go off track or anything, but like a month or so ago, we were working on a job site together, and it was very cold out, and so he was saying he wasn't going to go to the bathroom in the porta potties. He was like, "I'm going to go down the street. I'm going to go to Royal Farms. I'm going to use the bathroom." So, all right, dude, if that's what you want to do for your break, you know, you do your thing, right? Well, he comes back laughing, and I was like, "What happened, dude?" He said that he was in the bathroom doing his business, you know, his thing, and somebody had walked in, and he said that when he heard the door open, that's when he did the courtesy flush because he wanted to be nice to the person walking into the room. He said that the person, the guy, African-American guy, walked up to the urinal. And he walked up to the urinal, and after a couple of seconds, all he could hear was, it's like, "God damn, I can't even piss this motherfucker." And then just left. And James just started laughing, and he couldn't wait to tell me the story when he got back. But I couldn't even tell the story to my wife. I was laughing so hard. But it just reminded me of that because of Hall's daughter. That's what I imagine James is sounding like. Yeah, it just brought me back to it. But the Biadasz thing it's crazy and all. Now, sorry to get off track, but it's just a funny story. The last question from the Colonel, Goody. Latest reports that aging Trey Hendrickson is meeting with the front office this past week. Simultaneous reports are 7 clubs are keeping close tabs on disgruntled Raider Max Crosby, but not the Commanders. Would we really be considering a declining Hendrickson over a younger, though injured Crosby?
I mean, at this point of the year, you gotta experiment with everything. So just because we may not be on that list of the other 7 teams talking to Crosby, doesn't mean that it won't happen. You know, we never knew Tunsil was coming through the door at all,
That's
right?
a really
He
good
just
point,
showed up. He just showed up with his bags and said, "Hey, Washington, I'm here to protect your franchise asset." You know, so just because you're seeing those kind of reportings or whatever in terms of who we're speaking to and who we're not, there's people that we're speaking to that you don't even know, people that we're not talking to, and it's just that time of year, right? So I wouldn't get too caught up in that.
Hall loves
And
it.
I would kind of just let the chips fall where they may. You know, when that gate opens and the horses are out the race, what is it, next Wednesday? Is it the 10th? When is free agency like officially?
It's a week from today.
Yeah, it's a week from today. You can do the legal tampering, but
So
Yeah.
they
next
can't
Monday.
really
So
sign the
listen,
contract until I think
get
it's
some
Wednesday or
good
Thursday,
sleep.
something like
Get
that.
some good sleep on Sunday night. Make a nice dinner and wake up Monday and watch the horses run, because that's when it's gonna get fun. And a lot more of this stuff, it allows us to play more pieces to the puzzle. But yeah, I'm not really sure about them looking at Trey Henderson versus Crosby as of right now.
I just don't understand I think it has a lot to do with investment more so than it does the player, right? If you match the players up, I think everybody with 2 eyeballs and a brain would say, like, I'm going to go with Max Crosby over Trey, just at this point in their career, right? I'm not to shy away from Trey Hendrickson, right? Trey Hendrickson has dealt with his own injuries over the past couple of years. But I think it has a lot to do with the investment of it. I don't think that we have the capital to trade for Max Crosby at this moment in time. You're still trying to build things. Is Max Crosby going to help you immensely defensively? Absolutely. But he's also going to take away assets for you in the future depending on what you have to do, right? Because you're most likely going to have to give up a 2027 high-value pick. And are you really in a position to be able to help Jaden out as much as possible by giving away those picks at the moment. And I think that's probably where it is. But at the end of the day, like this is where reporters really make their money at this time of the year, especially end of February, March, because nobody is going to say anything. They know that nobody is going to say anything. And so reports can run wild. Nobody can verify it because nobody wants to hint at what they're thinking. And so it's just a time for the imagination, so to speak, especially this March to April. So what I would say is we have no idea. We had, just like Goody said, we had no idea about Laramie Tunsil, and that came through. So I would put that caveat in there, but it wouldn't surprise you just based on the investment of what it would take for Max Crosby.
Yeah, like you said, the reports are that Vegas, if they were to look into moving him, at minimum, it would be the Michael Parsons type deal, which was 2 firsts and a player.
And Micah's younger.
Yeah, Micah's younger, so you could probably negotiate that down a little bit to like a first and maybe like a future second, whatever it may be. That maybe stipulation converts into a first or whatever, about whatever the language might be. But to your point, if this was like if the defense was half decently built and the offense was, like one player away, that's the type of move where you're like, you know what? A guy like Max Crosby is going to put us over the top defensively, and he'll pick up and we know a guy like Jaden can obviously elevate the offense and pick up the slack on the offensive side of the ball. And that instantly puts you within Super Bowl contention. But like you said, they're still trying to build this thing out like the right way by getting young talent through the draft. And although a lot of people are saying that this is the draft where a lot of the front office and GMs and scouts look at it as a weaker type of draft. So that's why a lot of the Adam Schefters of the world are speculating, a lot of trades, a lot of movement, player movement and whatnot. But we just don't have the assets right now. Unfortunately, I would love a player like Max Crosby, but it's one of them things where you just don't have what it would take to get a guy like that. And and then as far as Trey Hendrickson goes, like he's a little bit older, he's coming off injuries from last year, but you just got to look at it, weigh it of, do you think that he's going to return to somewhat of the Trey Hendrickson for the last couple of years and give you 10, 12, 15 plus sacks? Or is he going to be the guy that's been injured and didn't really play a lot of games? So I expect him to go for younger edge guys in free agency, maybe like a what's his name, Mafe Moye from the Seahawks, maybe a Joseph Asai from
Boy Mafe.
Mafe, yeah, he's from the Seahawks.
What did you say?
I don't know what his name was. I said Mafe. I forget it. I probably like mispronounced his first name, but the guy from the Seahawks, Joseph Asai from the Bengals. I forget the Patriots like edge rusher, but he's a kind of a younger guy that looks like he's ascending. So there's a couple younger guys out there. Other than Chason. Yeah, Chason. Yeah, there's a couple other guys that are out there that are younger than Hendrickson that they may look at as elevating players like they did in 2024 with Biadasz, Lulu, Dorrance Armstrong. So I expect them to maybe be in on guys like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if they signed Trey Henderson.
Was not high on Chason coming out of the draft. I'm not high on him now. Now, the next question that we have, this one was submitted by Command These Nuts. Thank you, Michael. Hall, after the Combine results, has it changed your views on certain players? If so, who? Both good and bad.
No, it doesn't really change my view. I mean, I guess a guy like Sonny Styles kind of changed my view of like, that dude is just a freak. I didn't know he was like that fast, that athletic and stuff like that. I knew, obviously, just watching him play, he was like a beast. He could get from sideline to sideline, but just looking at the raw numbers and how he tested out, like the dude's the size of Megatron, runs like, who was it? Like whatever running back it was, Bijan Robinson, whoever it was, like just craziness. So
I think it was Calvin Johnson, if I'm not mistaken, was one that he was linked to.
Yeah, he's like the size of Megatron, Calvin Johnson. Runs like Bijan Robinson, has a broad jump as like same as Nate Robinson, who was in the dunk contest in the NBA. So, yeah, just a crazy freak athlete. But testing at the combine doesn't really like sway me negatively or positively. It's just I always go back to what do they do with football pads and going against actual football players on the field. But you always use it as a tool of like reference. But for the most part, it doesn't sway me either way. But I will say, Cornell Tate, I know a lot of people are like, oh, his 40 time, and they're judging it off based off like an eighth of a tenth of an eighth, or whatever it is. But I would say that he kind of swayed me as far as his play speed doesn't really like his 40 time when he was running. I was like, oh, he does look kind of fast. And then you look at his play speed, and it's like he has like football speed, but it doesn't really look like he's like blazing on the field. But I guess he's one of those guys that has that longer stride because he's tall. So that kind of swayed me on. Okay, I could see why they would be in on him at pick 7.
In the 40-yard dash, route running is not a thing. Stutter steps are not a thing, right? Like
unless you're running like a go route,
right?
But,
And that's what wide receivers use in order to gain separation, which is why somebody like Cornell Tate, who might not be a blazer in terms of 4.3 speed, but is still very effective in creating separation and having
like
speed.
Terry McLaurin.
Right, and having speed on the football field. But Terry still ran a 4.3. He was a fast dude. But I'll say this, Michael, in regards to like Sonny Styles, right? Like with Sonny, the fascinating thing about it is the combine numbers are supposed to be a cherry on top, right? And that's what I mean with Sonny Styles, where when you watch his film, the instincts are there. He plugs gaps. Very good tackler, natural instincts. I saw people comparing him to Jamin Davis, which couldn't be farther from the truth. Jamin's biggest issue was actual football instincts as a linebacker, knowing where to fill the hole in, right? He was almost an alien in that sort of regard. Sonny Styles is not like that at all. Him and Arvil Reese are very good at filling gaps, clogging up the run game, and also pursuing in the passing game and sticking in defense on receivers and running backs. Very good in that regard. He obviously has the speed for it. So his testing is the cherry on top to his film. A lot of people will negate the film and see the cherry on top and say that guy could play in the NFL, where that's where the film kind of helps you correlate it, right? Where with Sonny Styles, and that obviously that helps. I think Mike Washington, the running back from Arkansas, really made a case for himself. We talked to Thor Nystrom, and Thor told Goody and I that this running back class stunk, to be perfectly truthful with you guys. And with Mike Washington being 6'1", over 220 pounds, running a 4.33, I would say that really helped his case in being more of a front loader in the draft, more so than the back end, just showing that explosion on top of what he's shown on film. I really like this cat, Mike Washington, and I think that he was obviously somebody who benefited greatly. But I'll say that probably the biggest decline from the combine was probably Mekhi Lemon with his serial killer presser that he had. Look, I'm making a joke. Because that was just not something you see very much. And if he wanted to make a splash, he certainly did that. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if that's pre-workout or what was going on there, but he definitely made them remember his name.
Smoked too much weed is what it looked like.
They definitely got to remember his name.
How would you know,
Hall? Similar experience. I was at the combine, one time, and I was getting interviewed.
Mike Hall did come out of the combine and was drafted by the Browns a couple years ago. If you remember that.
I do. People were like, "Congratulations!" Thank you.
Goody, do you have anything on the combine and winners or losers?
Yeah. So it's hard to say, because with the combine, for me, I'm never really gonna see. It's hard to kind of look for somebody to underperform. I feel like you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And there's going to be people that exceed the expectations. There's going to be people that, for people that are specifically following individual players, they were going to be maybe upset with some of the things that they see based on what they expect. But I'm never going to look at somebody in the combine to underperform. I'm just going to see what they got, what they're bringing to the table. Players go into this every single year for however many years that they've been running this combine. So just seeing where guys measure up year after year after year against other guys that have been through it already. That's really where I kind of sit with it. But in terms of looking at underperformance and underwhelming results, I don't really pay too much mind to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The interviews is all that matters, truly, and the meetups between agents and front office personnel. Now let's head to the Discord. Our boys out there, the Discord party. Let's see what they have to ask for us. Tim Towner asks, Goody, very simply, would you trade number 7 overall to Dallas for 12th overall and 20th?
Without a doubt. Let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll. Yeah, I would do that. In terms of the top of the draft, right? And this really comes down to giving us giving us a lot more ammo, clearly. But if this is even possible, I don't see that. But the top of the draft, you have the Raiders. They're taking a quarterback. Um, the Giants, they have edge rushers. So it kind of eliminates, some of those top edge rushers from going as soon as 7 may seem, whereas there's really only 5 spaces, and with the amount of defenders that we have to pick from, I think that gives you a lot of leverage in terms of still being able to get somebody on the defensive side of the ball at a very, very high talent, and also being able to double dip in the first round, where at that point, sitting at 20, there's going to be something that just falls into your lap, while you've already addressed kind of a pressing need. I would take that all day.
I look at it a lot like with the Jahan Dotson, Chris Olave trade that happened. Like, that wasn't all that much given back to us, right? And so I don't think that the first rounder would be attached to it, just moving up 5 spots. But I want to ask Call this question. Would you take that trade?
I mean, if they're gonna throw in that extra first rounder, like pick 20, then it'd be hard to turn that down just because you'd be double
What if
dipping.
Jeremiah Love is there at 7?
I mean, like you said, they're not gonna attach pick 20 to
I'm just
pick
saying,
12 also.
hypothetically, if they attached pick 20 with it and Jeremiah Love is there at 7, would you make that trade?
I would probably still make the trade just because you can still double dip and get another offensive player like a Denzel Boston from Washington to add to the receiver room or something like that later in the first round. But I mean, it would be hard to pass up. But I mean, getting offered 2 first round picks
this love
to
song
move
is
back 5
starting to
spots, I
grow
mean, that's
on me,
kind of hard to pass up just from a value standpoint. But to your point, like I would feel kind of like mad about trading back just because you're probably going to miss out on the top end talent in this draft, like the true like blue chip players that people marked in this draft. But I mean, like I said, if you want to recoup picks and take more bites at the apple, then that would be the deal for you. But me personally, it'd be hard for me to pass like the true like top end talent in this draft with a team that doesn't really have a lot of top end talent on it already.
Yeah, I got you. If you made that trade, this would put you in the mark of the Cassius Howells of the world, the Peter Woods being there, possibly like the McCoy corner from Tennessee at 20. It would put you kind of in that realm, the Dylan Thieneman safety type, Emmanuel McNeil Warren type. And would that really move the needle for me? I think it would, personally. It does make sense. I just don't think it's possible. But it depends on who is there overall at 7. If Arvil Reese is there at 7, I don't do that. I think based on what Durante Jones wants to do, based on versatility being the key word, I think Sonny Styles, Arvil Reese, David Bailey, Cassius Howell, they all fit that bill. And that's all something that you should be wanting to and covet and bringing here to Washington to move forward. Of course, they're great building blocks, but it's just hard to imagine that Dallas would be willing to part with their second first rounder they got from Micah just to move up. And what would they be moving up for, right? And if they are moving up for that player, should Washington be in the realm of getting out of that spot if that good of a player is there and Dallas feels it to be that way? Does that make sense? So I would lean towards no. As much as I've always been a draft trade back kind of guy, I don't ever plan on getting back to the top 10 picking. So we got to make sure that whatever pick that we do get at 7, that we're making sure that we're able to never get back to this location possible, in my personal opinion. Now, the next question from Deluxe. This is for you, Hall. Who is the name of the week at number 7?
Name of the week. That's a good one. Who was it this week? It's Jeremiah Love last week.
Sonny Styles.
Yeah, you're right. After the combine, it's Sonny Styles. Yeah, obviously, due to his workout, he's not making it out of the top 5 now. Jeremiah Love's not making it out of the top 5. Both receivers aren't making it out of the top 5. Who else is in there? There's like 8 players not making it out of the top 5 right now. So we're just screwed at 7. Who knows?
And remember you coming back at me on Twitter because I said Mina Kimes had posted about the Titans, and I was like, that'd be a perfect spot for Jeremiah Love, because everyone keeps telling me you need to pair a young quarterback with a great talented running back, and I'm sitting here saying the Giants are there, the Cardinals are there, what they could possibly be doing. You got the Saints there, you got the Titans there. If that's the case, why aren't these teams pulling it? If this is really the case. And then Justin from the Draft Network, who covers the Titans, put out and said, "Oh, the Titans love Jeremiah Love," and I was like, "Okay, right there, right then and there, man. There it is. Just pull the trigger, dude. Do something for Cam Ward. Help him out. Give him another weapon. You know what I'm saying? That's someone that obviously needs it very badly." The name of the week is absolutely Sonny Styles. It's going to be fun to see who it is the week following, because like I said on Twitter, Arch, which is what you're referring to, is that I just don't get Twitter sometimes. Because a couple weeks ago, it was Caleb Downs. The following week, it was Mansour Delane, and Hall just rides this wave with him. It's crazy. Every single podcast, every week, you can hear what Twitter is saying. And then after that, it was Jeremiah Love. And then I said this week it's going to be Arvel Reese and Sonny Styles. And that's what it is, man. I'm excited to see who.
Incorrect.
It'll be exciting to see who it'll be next week. I'm very excited.
It'll
to
be
see.
Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson next week.
You think so? Jordan Tyson is my number one overall. I know I've said it. Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate are my 1B, 1C type, but I think that Jordan Tyson has put himself above all. Now, the next question from Tim Towner Hall. Project what we do at center. Draft someone, or more likely sign a free agent or two. And if two, how much are you spending on the starter and the backup? Or is Allegretti the backup going forward?
No, I just saw, what's his name? Tyler Glasgow from the Detroit Lions just got released. He's like a center guard type. Obviously, connections to Blau from being in Detroit. Knows what Ben Johnson was there as an OC, obviously, so he knows what type of offense that Blau wants to run. He's familiar with this offense that they're going to be running here. And he's an older guy, like 33, 34, 32, something like that.
34.
But yeah, he'd be the perfect competition for Nick Allegretti to go against in training camp. And obviously, he'd probably win the starting job. They didn't extend Allegretti for him to probably not get the job. They're going to bring competition, but it's going to be like I said, a competition. But yeah, I would say a guy like Tyler Glasgow in free agency, and maybe they draft a guy in the later rounds to add to that room to kind of be not development, but maybe just a competition guy for the backup, and then eventually takes that spot overall down the line. But I can see them adding in free agency to have a competition against Allegretti.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do, Tim, with how they view Allegretti, because obviously him being re-signed, they do find value in Allegretti and Allegretti. And so you'd have to ask yourself, okay, are they viewing it as to say that he has a legitimate chance to start? And are they looking at it as saying he has a legitimate chance to start, but we're going to bring in competition? And if they're looking at it from the competition standpoint, I think you actually feel really good about the offensive line. You re-sign Wiley, you re-sign Allegretti, so you have your competitive guys there. We don't know what's going to go on with Chris Paul. You got Brandon Coleman, who, regardless of what you say about Brandon Coleman, him playing left tackle and helping us get the NFC Championship game for somebody that could be slotted in as guard and center, it says a lot about the young man and what he could possibly do for you. He obviously does something well. So I think that you feel really good about your offensive line, just given the slate that you have now. That Coleman can slide in a guard. Coleman got some snaps at center in practice, so it's not like it's completely foreign to him. You feel good there. I think you go down the route of the draft. And even though Reed wanted to argue with me just to argue, this is a good center class. And so I think that Logan Jones is obviously going to be up there. I've said this before. I think all the Iowa offensive linemen, Bo Stevens, Jennings Dunker, and Logan Jones, are all capable of being Pro Bowl centers at the next level. And so I think that Trey Zune, other guys like that, could obviously be fit in here. And you have the competition to say, best guy wins. And I think that somebody like Cooper Beebe, that came out of Kansas State a couple years ago, started for the Cowboys at center and did well for them, I think is what you could kind of look at with this center class to say, I think we can get value in that sort of regard in this draft class to say a competitor that if he's good enough can win the job. If not, it's a projection for years following, which is honestly what we were looking at even before Tyler Biadasz was released. Goody?
Yeah, I think for this you have to look at both. For me, because everybody's assuming Allegretti is going to be the new center, right? And we just don't know that. They're just assuming because he's done it, and that's just maybe something they just want to have, that position flexibility. But ultimately, I think they're still going to address the center position. I think they should do it through free agency, just to be sure of themselves, because the draft is obviously more of a gamble in terms of what's available, not necessarily if you hit on that player as
It's
well.
fair.
But I think you want to address that, in free agency, get a center in here, get an actual center, so you're not sitting here playing this game of, Allegretti could do this and that. Get your center. If you go into the draft, it may not be necessarily a priority or as high of a priority on that list when you're looking at your board, when you're on the clock. But when that center does, show up in your round and you're able to go and get one, I think you still go ahead and do that just so you kind of insulate that position moving forward.
And like one more point, I was listening to 106 earlier, and Grant and Danny had Andrew Wiley on,
Shocking.
and what's it called? Oh, they had Andrew Wiley on, and like they're boys going back to Kansas City. They won a Super Bowl together, came here, played together. Their families are like really tight. But he was saying that basically like to paraphrase, they talked to like a lot about like how Allegretti feels more comfortable at center, feels like that's his best fit, and like where he can really kind of land and be like a stalwart going forward as far as like what he has left in his career. So in his mind, Allegretti seems like he's a center. So maybe that also helps him like win the job, like from like a confidence like standpoint.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Now, this last question from Tim Towner in the Discord. Goody, he asks, so Mendoza goes number 1 to Las Vegas. As we pick 7, are there 6 defensive players on the board to allow us to add to our D? Who is the top offensive players on your board?
Top offensive player?
Yeah.
I'm going Jeremiah Love. I feel like that. See, like this whole stir up to the draft is working. It works effectively every year, no matter how you can know that it's coming. All the hype is going to begin, and then it just works on you. It's inevitable. It's like pollen in the spring. You start to sneeze and your eyes start to tear, right? But the whole idea of Jeremiah Love coming to Washington is really growing on me. If he's there at 7,
We lost another one.
I'm saying, in terms of if those defensive players are gone, unless you're trading back with Dallas for 12 and 20, which is out of this world, I just don't see Jeremiah Love even being there. But again, looking at the offense, looking past the draft, looking at who's available or not next year, having a running back like that, it obviously takes you to another level. But it's really hard to say in terms of the amount of offensive players that are going to be taken as high. I think a lot of the defense is going to be swept off the board early. So definitely want to get that done.
Yeah, are there 6 defensive players? Like if we are to say that there's going to be 6 to go before Washington, obviously the big 3 Ohio State guys you could say could arguably be those guys, and Caleb Downs, Arvil Reese, Sonny Styles. So that's 3 right there. You got David Bailey, Ruben Bain as well. So that's 5 altogether. I guess you could add in Mansour Delane in there. That could possibly be somebody that you could add to your unit just in helping in the back end in the secondary. But obviously pressure wins everything. I think Cassius Howell does deserve to be up there regardless of his arm length. The guy is explosive, intense, and he can be utilized all over the field. I think he's a versatile piece, and you'd feel really good about somebody like that adding to this group. You can't discount defensive line, like somebody like Peter Woods from Clemson, who lost weight coming into this season because Clemson relied on them heavily to be able to move all over, and that's another piece that I don't think that we're out of the realm of adding another piece on the interior of the defensive line. We need to find something for the zero tech to allow the other guys a little bit more flexibility in the defensive line. So I do think there are a lot of defensive players you could go with at 7, and I think that we're in a prime location for it. My top offensive guys at 7, if 6 defensive guys went before, say Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and Mekhi Lemon, I would say, are my 3 offensive guys that I would feel really good about for Washington there. Just given with where Terry is at in his age, and
Is
wanting to make sure that because of those defensive guys are gone, you do go with who can help you out most in the long term. And I think the wide receiver room, that could be something that projected long term that would help you out a lot.
is there anybody that Washington picks at 7 that everybody can be okay with? Is it possible?
No.
Sonny Styles. I think the majority of people would be happy if they got Sonny Styles at 7.
If
somehow.
Jeremiah Love is on the board,
I mean, yeah, people would probably be
You're
like,
gonna have people, yeah.
I still think a lot of people would still say like, yeah, I like the pick, but there would be more people that would be like mad at it. But I mean, yeah,
I can't wait.
can't please everybody.
I can't wait.
please everybody.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
So I guess my top defensive players would be
no, he was saying offensive players.
offensive players are So well, we know there's going to be at least 5 possibly defensive players picked before us because we know Raiders are going quarterback on offense. So that leaves like 5 slots in front of us to go. But yeah, I think that I've always been like if the 3 edge guys are gone, like Reese, Bailey, or Bain, which it looks like Bain might still be there at 7, but who knows if he's going to fit Durante Jones's defense. But if Bailey and Reese are gone, because Reese would be my number 1 defensive player. If Sonny Styles is gone, guys like that, then my number 1 offensive player, obviously, is Jeremiah Love, just because I feel like even though yes, the wide receiver position is more valuable from a standpoint, the contractor are bigger down the line. You're going to have to pay more to all that stuff. It's a passing league that can affect the game, possibly in a bigger role. But you also got to factor in Jeremiah Love can catch the ball at the backfield. You can use him in the passing game. So you kind of be double dipping, getting a guy like that at 7. My 1A or 1B, whatever you want to call it, would be Jordan Tyson. That's been my guy for the last 2 years. It reminds me of Jordan Jefferson-esque whenever I watch him.
There's nobody named Jordan Jefferson.
Oh, Justin Jefferson, sorry.
All right.
And too many J's. Yeah, double entendre, get it?
Yeah.
And and then I guess my 3rd player on the board, it's probably a tie between Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon. I think obviously 2 different style receivers, but both could benefit from this style of offense where you look at a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown and that Ben Johnson style of offense, that could be a Mekhi Lemon type of player. You look at even though he's not as fast as Jamison Williams, he has that downfield threat of a Jamison Williams in that type of offense. So that would be my 3 guys on offense.
Yeah, we do have to say, Tim, that in regards to the draft, like Cleveland obviously traded for Titus Howard today, and like we do have to take like they have no offensive linemen. So I think we can verifiably say that they're most likely going to go offensive line in the first round. They're going to get the best guy possible out there. You can't rule out you can't rule out Arizona as well, possibly. Obviously, with James Conner and his injury concerns and possibly leaving. So, like, you'd have to look at running back for them as well. So, it's not a foregone conclusion that everyone's going to go defense early on in the first round. I do think it's going to be a mixed bag, which is just going to benefit Washington more and more. It's going to make the question more difficult with the gun to your head at 7 when every single offensive guy taken is before them. It's going to make that decision that much harder on who you're going to select. But I think if one of those Ohio State guys is there, you don't think twice about it and you submit it, and it fits what you want to do. This isn't like you have Jim Haslett. This isn't like you have one of those Jack Del Rio where they're just going to tell them, get out wide, stay in one position, and steal the edge. Like, this is going to be a different pressurized type of defense, and I think that Arvil Reese and Sonny Styles would really do well in that sort of regard. Adding stockpiling linebacker and defensive line is only going to benefit the secondary, and that's going to help it's just going to roll down the line in that regard and help out this football team. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us. If you made it this far, you're a freaking champion. Yeah, I love you guys, even the ones that are so crazy about Jeremiah Love. Even though I yell at you and fight with you on Twitter, I still love you. You know, it's as nasty as some of you are. But it's all good. I get it. We all want to make the team better. It's just, you know, my mindset is helping Jaden is not only just adding offensive weapons, it's adding defense for him too. And that's what's going to really help Jaden long term. All right, everybody. We'll see you again either later this week or next week. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
Goody.
And we'll see you guys then. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.